Listen closely because this is the kind of truth nobody tells you until it is too late. When the shelves go bare and the hum of convenience stores fades into a deafening silence, you're not just running out of snacks, you're running out of time. Panic spreads faster than fire in dry grass, and what you thought was a minor inconvenience becomes a daily fight for survival. The moment the grocery aisle's empty, the game changes completely. And if you think you can just make do with what aches left in the back of your pantry, think again. You'll soon realize there are 5 supplies hidden in plain sight that will determine whether you thrive or barely survive, and you'll curse yourself for not stocking them beforehand. First, let's talk about water. You might laugh, thinking, of course I have water. But here's what most people miss. The critical factor isn't just having water. It's having it in a form that's reliable, portable, and filterable. Bottled water is a temporary solution, but it's heavy, finite, and once it's gone, you're scrambling. What you truly need is a portable filtration system, something that removes bacteria, protozoa, and even microplastics. Life straws, gravity-fed filters, collapsible bladders. They aren't sexy, but in a blackout scenario, they're literally the difference between survival and dehydration-induced delirium. Water isn't just for drinking either. It's for cooking, hygiene, and perhaps most critically, keeping your mental edge sharp. Thirst erodes decision-making faster than hunger ever could. Next, fuel. And no, I'm not just talking about gas for your car. I'm talking about concentrated energy sources for both movement and heat. A society without electricity is not just inconvenient. It's deadly. Propane, butane, solid fuel tablets, and even high-density charcoal become treasures of almost mythical value. With these you can cook, boil water, sterilize tools, and stay warm when the nights turn mercilessly cold. Heat isn't just comfort, it's a survival mechanism. A hypothermic body loses function rapidly, and the quiet, creeping cold of a powerless winter night will test your endurance in ways you've never imagined. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. Food comes third, but don't make the rookie mistake of hoarding just anything. Canned goods are heavy and often low in nutritional density. What you truly want are calorie-dense, nutrient-packed options with longevity. Freeze-dried meals, powdered eggs, peanut butter, and even small pouches of nuts and seeds. These items are compact, portable, and provide not just energy, but the vital micronutrients your body will desperately crave after a week or two of scarcity. The human body, stripped of variety, breaks down. Cravings aren't just emotional, they're biochemical signals of imminent weakness. If you ignore this, your body becomes an asset drain rather than an asset itself. Fourth, medical supplies. This is where preparation separates survivalists from the rest. When stores are empty, even the simplest antiseptics, bandages, or painkillers become as valuable as gold. A cut that would normally heal in a week can turn fatal if infected. Chronic conditions like diabetes, asthma, or high blood pressure demand uninterrupted medication. Stocking these items isn't paranoia. It's preemptive life-saving. Don't underestimate small items like tweezers, sutures, or burn cream. In a collapsed society, micro problems escalate rapidly. And remember, knowledge is part of your medical supply. Knowing how to clean, bandage, or improvise care is just as important as having the items themselves. Finally, tools and multi-purpose gear. A knife, a sturdy tarp, paracord, and a compact multi-tool are the silent pillars of long-term survival. These aren't just items, they're enablers. They turn scarcity into possibility. Need to catch food, build shelter, or create a makeshift water collector? These tools do the heavy lifting. And the underrated hero here is redundancy. Having multiple ways to achieve the same task ensures that when one method fails, you aren't helpless. Improvisation isn't a skill, it's a necessity, and the right tools make improvisation possible. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. Now, let's be brutally honest. Having these supplies doesn't magically make survival easy. It changes the odds, yes, but it also paints a target on your back. When the world around you is unraveling, knowing you have what others desperately need makes you a beacon for danger. This is where psychology comes into play. You must ration, camouflage, and strategize. A well-stocked individual without a plan often falls victim to their own hoard. Understanding human behavior, the instincts that drive looting, and the way fear propagates is just as critical as having the supplies themselves. The trick is integration. Water filtration alone won't save you. Fuel alone won't keep you alive. Food, medicine, and tools must coexist within a strategy. A system of survival that anticipates shortages, mitigates risk, and maintains flexibility. Imagine a week without power, heat, or running water. The first night, the panic hits. By the third day, exhaustion and dehydration start bending reality. By the fifth, hunger gnaws at your judgment. By the seventh, without medical readiness, minor injuries compound. But with these 5 supplies, intelligently stockpiled and deployed, you buy yourself time, the most precious resource in any collapse scenario. And time is where the science comes in. Your body's caloric needs spike when under stress. Exposure to cold accelerates metabolic burn. Sleep deprivation erodes cognition. Each supply interacts with these physiological realities. Water prevents delirium. Food fuels decision-making. Fuel enables heat and cooking. Medical items prevent cascading failure. Tools allow resourcefulness. Without these elements aligned with your biological and psychological needs, even the most prepared individual falls short. Think about it like this. Stores going empty isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a trigger, a stress test for your body, your mind, and your ethics. How far would you go to secure these supplies? How would you prioritize them when the world is silent except for the whispers of desperation? And the horrifying truth is, most people never think about this until they're staring at barren shelves, realizing the system they relied on has vanished overnight. The ones who survive aren't the lucky. They're the informed, the strategic, the relentless. So here is the bottom line. If you wait until panic hits to consider what you'll need, you're already behind. 5 supplies, 5 pillars, 5 ways to tip the scales in your favor when society suddenly stops delivering. Water, fuel, food, medical readiness, and tools. They aren't glamorous, they aren't convenient, but they are indispensable. And if you understand the science, the psychology, and the logic behind why each is critical, you don't just survive. You retain control, agency, and the slim edge that separates life from calamity. Remember, in a world where stores are empty and desperation is contagious, preparation is your silent weapon. Knowledge is your armor. And the moment you realize how thin the veneer of civilization really is, you'll understand why these 5 supplies are not optional. They're survival itself. The clock is always ticking. The shelves will always empty faster than you expect. And when the first wave of chaos hits, you'll either be ready or you'll wish, with every fiber of your being, that you had been. But let's go deeper, because survival isn't T just about having items, it's about anticipating the invisible threats no one warns you about. When stores go empty, it's not only the physical scarcity you face, it's the behavioral cascade. People change, alliances fracture, trust evaporates. This is where your mental and social survival strategies become as critical as your stockpile. Isolation can be a shield, but it can also be a trap. Staying mobile, knowing when to blend in versus when to secure your perimeter, and understanding the psychology of desperation can prevent you from becoming an unintentional target. You'll notice that when the lights go out, social norms vanish faster than the bread on the shelves. Crowds become predators, and every decision has an ethical and biological cost. Here's where adaptability comes in. Supplies are useless without improvisation. For example, that tarp you hoarded isn't just for shelter. It can become a rainwater collector, a solar reflector, or even a makeshift stretcher. Paracord isn't just for tying things. It can secure food caches, create traps, or even serve as emergency shoelaces. Tools aren't just tools, they are multipliers of your ingenuity. Understanding how each item in your kit interacts with physics, Biology and human behavior is what separates someone who survives in comfort from someone who scrambles hopelessly. You begin to see patterns: heat and water retention, caloric density, ergonomic storage, and even scent management become life or death calculations. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. Next, consider energy management. Human energy isn't just calories, it's cognitive and physical reserves. When food runs low, your decision-making falters, reflexes slow, and the stress response dominates every action. That's why your stockpile strategy must align with activity pacing. Don't exhaust your fuel supplies by constantly cooking for comfort. Ration both caloric intake and activity levels to optimize endurance. The human body is a machine with finite reserves, and in a collapsed society, you're constantly managing entropy. Heat lost versus energy gained, dehydration versus metabolic burn, attention versus fatigue. When you master this balance, your 5 supplies don't just sustain you, they amplify your survival potential. Let's talk about community dynamics, because even the most prepared individual cannot ignore human networks entirely. If you can identify reliable allies, even small groups can share resources, trade knowledge, and create layers of defense. But choose carefully. Desperation makes people unpredictable. Observing behavior, detecting stress signals, and maintaining subtle authority through knowledge rather than force ensures that your stockpile supports not just survival, but strategic dominance. Here, your mental model of scarcity, cooperation, and risk becomes just as vital as the physical supplies themselves. Now, let's revisit water, but in an advanced way. Stored water is finite. Filtered water requires ongoing attention. Knowing how to identify natural sources, underground springs, condensation collection, or even improvised dew traps extends your autonomy. Pair this with solar stills or chemical purification techniques, and you're no longer dependent on static stores. Each method has a scientific logic. Bacteria need certain conditions to survive, evaporation concentrates minerals, and filtration removes particulates without destroying essential electrolytes. Understanding these processes turns a single canteen into a life-sustaining reservoir. Finally, let's expand on food sustainability. Beyond freeze-dried meals and nuts, consider long-term storage strategies: fermenting, drying, or even small-scale urban gardening. These methods leverage microbiology and plant physiology to create renewable resources. In a collapsed supply chain, your ability to convert minimal input, sunlight, rainwater, and a few seeds into caloric and nutritional output becomes a survival multiplier. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's scalable and scientifically grounded. A week without fresh food is dangerous. A month without it is potentially fatal. But with minimal know-how, you can extend your independence indefinitely. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. So here's the unvarnished truth. When stores are empty, survival is not about luck. It's about preparation, science, psychology, and adaptability. Water, fuel, food, medicine, and tools. They are your 5 pillars, but they must exist within a system that balances risk, maximizes efficiency, and leverages human and natural dynamics. Your supplies are useless without strategy. Your strategy is hollow without discipline, and your discipline is meaningless without knowledge. Chaos doesn't care about hope, it only cares about readiness. By the time the streets are empty and the looters begin their rounds, you will realize that being stocked is just step 1. Step 2 is thinking 5 moves ahead. Who else knows what you know? What paths are predictable? How can you create buffers, diversions, or redundancies without drawing attention? These are survival calculations as precise as any physics problem, as urgent as any biological imperative. And in this crucible, those who fail to integrate knowledge with supplies falter first. So if you take away one thing from this extended insight, let it be this: the 5 supplies aren't just items. They were the backbone of an entire survival framework. They interact with biology, physics, psychology, and social dynamics. They are amplified by knowledge and strategy. When stores go empty, the world tests you relentlessly. And only those who respect the hidden rules of scarcity, risk, and resourcefulness will emerge intact. Every liter of water, every calorie, every pill, every multi-tool, every drop of fuel, it matters more than you think. Because in that empty, silent world, preparedness is the ultimate currency. And finally, remember this: the clock is ticking. Shelves will empty faster than your imagination anticipates. Desperation will rise, and normalcy will vanish overnight. But with foresight, with intelligence, and with these 5 supplies mastered and integrated into a deliberate strategy, you don't just survive, you endure. You retain agency, you keep your mind sharp, your body functioning, and your ethics intact. In a world gone silent, that combination, knowledge, preparation, and adaptability, is what separates those who merely live from those who actually survive.